Hello, good evening to you and welcome to News 360. We are live from the News Hub here at Adisawe, Kanda. I'm Natalie Fort.
And my name is Alfredo Conce. Coming up in the bulletin tonight.
News 360 Headlines is brought to you by...
Auditor General applies to Attorney General for powers to prosecute state officials for financial malfeasance.
A Ministry of Health announces creation of 17,000 jobs within 13 months as President Akufo-Addo prepares to deliver his second State of Nation address on Thursday.
And in our special feature this evening, we focus on acquisition of accommodation in NEMA, a slum in the city of Accra.
And in business tonight, GCB Bank shuts down 31 branches of defunct UT and Capital banks after successful takeover.
And on the international front this evening, ANC leaders hold emergency meeting on Jacob Zuma's future as South Africa's president. We've got the details of these stories for you here on News 360, including the latest of news from the world of sports and entertainment. You can catch us all across the world on 3news.com as well as TV3 Ghana on Facebook.
Let's go to our first story. This evening, the Auditor General, Daniel Domelovo, has applied to the Attorney General to grant him powers to prosecute those indicted in the annual Auditor General's report. Addressing a news conference in Accra, he noted the current system is always characterized with repetitive stories of financial mismanagement.
The powers of the Auditor General could be extended if he is granted prosecutorial powers to fight corruption within the public service. The Auditor General, Daniel Domelovo, was positive the fight against corruption is going to be stronger than it has always been, with the focus of prosecuting public officials who engage in the practice.
I have sounded a warning in the report that whoever authorized the payment, whoever effected the payment, and whoever received the payment, they are all candidates of surcharge. That's why we gave guidance that the Constitution says when you are aggrieved by the disallowance, go to the High Court and appeal against us.
He expressed disappointment in some accountants within the public service for engaging in double payments for goods and services procured within the public and civil service. Some of these overpayments, he indicated, come as a result of some accountants' failure to act professionally, which he suspects are sometimes deliberate.
The first regulation is to make records available in the course of audit, and in case the Minister of Finance needs it or the Accountant General needs it. So anyone who is managing or keeping public funds has a statutory duty to keep the records. We cannot find it is not an excuse. And some boldly write it as if it's a justification. They'll tell you, yes, we spend the money, but we cannot find it.
He said the Auditor General report, which is annually presented to Parliament, will no longer be a compilation of wrongdoings and embezzlement, but will include actions taken to retrieve the monies.
We are not going to finish our audits and wait for the TV show at public accounts anymore. When we finish our audits, we raise observation against you, and you decide to ignore it, we will disallow the expenditure and surcharge you.
He expressed this is to ensure funds spent on the ministries and agencies do not go waste.
Let's turn to some other stories this evening. Now, the cost of residential property in NEMA is rapidly increasing. Residents complain that this is unreasonable, with many houses in the community lacking toilet facilities. The news team visited the area and has come through with the following report. The minimum cost of renting a room in what has been largely described as the capital slum ranges from 40 to 50 Ghana cedis monthly, with the maximum ranging between 200 to 400 Ghana cedis for a compound house. Most often, landlords require an advance payment of 2 years. This community is home to many migrants from Nigeria and Ivory Coast who come into Ghana for work and study. The youth population in NEMA is also relatively high. The quality of residential property here, however, leaves much to be desired. Open gutters, poor drainage systems, small-sized rooms, and, worst of all, absence of toilet facilities. These are the challenges residents in the community face daily upon renting a property. 72-year-old Ellen Krantema, who lives here, complained she was forced to put up a toilet and bathroom at her own cost upon occupying the facility.
4 years in near toilet. See any toilet. Biara is a good bucket in the Kotugu, or buy a see any toilet, Yenya Biano, or so on small beer. May buy first, no, not at the market car. No, Shasso, no, Jimmy, 2 city. Never 25. Now 25 in your cookery 100. Yes, I cookery to 150. They buy 800. 80 Ghana. Yeah.
Much to the displeasure of her Nigerian landlord. A resident of Newtown, Maria Mohammed, is not pleased with what she describes as the high cost of property in the area, considering one would need to pay a 2-year rent in advance.
Baby, I'm a single room, toilet in him, bath in him, Nancy Mitiano 1.2 a month, Sana Mitiano. Oh, no boarding. Single room, the Kenny said just 1.2. Nke was our cost to 800 and a sister Ghana there, and a 70 there, and so single room I bet you on 1.2, there no boarding.
NEMA is one of Accra's most impoverished communities, and though it routinely suffers from inadequate provision of basic facilities, housing, water pipes, electricity, and drainage systems, the population of the community continues to grow. On the commercial front, property prices are much higher. This one-room office is being rented at 1,000 Ghana cedis monthly, but the such facilities come with no lavatories.
10,000 and over for a small thing like that called an office. Like 5 years. Yeah, 5 years.
So you pay 5 years advance?
Yes.
Meet Elaine Intre, who now lives at Greater Estate. She previously lived at NEMA, where she grew up. She is now renting a 4-bedroom house belonging to her parents. She believes the rent charge for the residential property in the area is befitting of the environment.
From 70 to 150 Ghana cedis a month. To them, they think it's okay. That is why they are here.
President of Ghana Institute of Planners, Alfred Kwesi Opoku, says the NEMA community has a high market potential which should be exploited. He, however, warned government against instituting an aggressive urban regeneration approach in the community.
NEMA, as you mentioned, has a location advantage. So they have a very high market potential, very high economic potential there that must be exploited. The difficulty is that there's no space to build a new structure. There's very little space also to move people in, to do other businesses. The best thing that can be done is to identify the businesses that are already there, empower them economically, whether they need loans, whether they need to train people to employ more.
As part of efforts to redevelop inner cities and Zongo communities across the country, government has made available a 150 million cedis funding. This, the president of the Ghana Institute of Planners, Alfred Kwesi Opoku, says should be invested in improving the living standards of inhabitants of slums.
So let's use this money to see how we can psych them, empower them, and then let everybody see by the time the 150 million finishes, let's say we have grown about 10 to 20 businessmen who are employing, and they themselves will begin to realize that the environment is not good for the business. So let's do something about it. Let's get a cleaner environment for ourselves. Let us get sanitation improved. If it comes from them, it is better and more sustainable.
NEMA is a less than 30-minute drive from the Kotoka International Airport, the central business district of Accra, the Parliament House of Ghana, the ministries in Accra, and other equally important landmarks. However, the locational advantage of this community is not mirrored on the property picture here. So, As NEMA's neighboring communities continue to develop and decorate the capital's skyline, we wonder how long NEMA will remain a slum in the city. Natalie Fort, TV3 News, NEMA, Accra.
Well, so that's the situation in NEMA. Now, Honorable Boniface Abubakar Sadiq is the minister in charge of inner city and Zongo development, and he's joined us in studio. Honorable, thank you for making some time to join us this evening. Looking at what's happening there in NEMA, this is just a cross-section of their problems. There's sanitation and others. Do you have a special plan for NEMA, as we saw there?
Absolutely. Not only NEMA, but all the Zongo communities. But NEMA seems to be in a strategic position.
Absolutely, a very prime area.
Very prime area. And at the moment, NEMA is a host to almost all African citizens. I call it ECOWAS. Because when you go to NEMA on Wednesdays, you find out that people across Africa come to NEMA to shop, to trade.
I think that's the market day.
Yes. But in terms of housing, you come to realize that it is not something good to write home about. It's a host to our president, the #1 citizen of this country.
Absolutely.
And so it is so important that we put NEMA into shape. And the ministry is to respond to at least the SDG 11 that talks about making cities and like Zongo communities inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable.
So what is the specific plan for NEMA? Because immediately, we're going to be going to all the other zones.
Immediately, we should be looking at how we make NEMA very safe in terms of sanitation.
How are you going to do that?
We've started, and it's going to be nice because we're going to introduce a lot of small drains, alleyways, alley pavements, in between houses. You make it very decent, maybe sand, cement, and make it what they call screeding, so that all water in various homes will not be spilled onto the roads, but rather into drains, or you pipe all wastewater in various homes into the main drain. So at least you make the environment very safe.
And when is this starting? You are tackling drainage
We've been given a budget.
Of how much? 101 million?
101 million.
Is that enough to do this?
Well, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a step.
We don't want to say that. Statement of a journey of 1,000 miles a lot from politicians. And then when you are not able to execute what you said you will do, the reason you give to us is that there was lack of funding. So I just want to find out, how much of this 101 million are you going to use to construct the drains, as you're telling myself and my viewers tonight?
Well, for now, I can tell you that I have about a 16 million in terms of my budget, the breakdown, at least 16 million for social services. 85 will go under CAPEX, which is capital expenditure. And most of what I've mentioned will fall under CAPEX. And you see, when we come down, because we have a lot of Zongo communities, roughly, as I speak, we have not less than 1,000 communities. But authentically, we cannot zero down onto the 1,000, because somewhere in 2007, 2008, we had 365 Zongos. That is those named and known as Zongos. Because you can have Zongo communities.
So
that
you have 16 million out of the 101 to do this service.
That falls under social services. It's not meant for one particular community. Fine. The 85 falls under CAPEX. That is capital expenditure.
But with specific reference to NEMA, you outline what you're going to do. But have you started anything yet?
No, we have not even discussed. We are now receiving our appropriation bill. Okay, that has just come to Parliament.
It's been
a year.
Listen,
it's not a year.
I mean,
please.
Well, when
sometimes people misconstrue.
Almost.
People misconstrue facts. The 1 year, we were not given a budget. Go back to history. We were not given a budget. I was billed to ensure that the bill, Zongo Development Fund,
is passed.
Now, so the whole year was used to conscientize the people in Ghana. People living in Zongo communities access their own views about the Zongo Development Fund bring in their contributions. Based on that, we developed the bill.
That's fair.
Presented to Parliament.
That's fair.
If you remember, I took it to Parliament. On 2 occasions, I had to withdraw because I had to do some additions.
Absolutely. I mean, but the most important thing
finally,
is that now
finally,
it has been passed.
Finally, it has been passed on the 2nd of January because, first of all, it was passed by Parliament in December.
You know what?
And it was accented
obviously
by the president.
Know all of this.
Yes.
What I want to find out from
but
you,
you're
what
telling
we
me
do
that
not
1
know,
year now we have not done anything.
No, I'm just saying to
Yes.
you that you have been in existence. I didn't say you haven't
Oh,
done
okay,
anything.
okay.
You have been in existence
well, I take it.
for over a year
Yes.
now. So this plans you're telling me,
yeah.
do you have the money to execute it? Because you have it on paper.
Yeah.
The most important thing is you executing it for the people of NEMA to find some relief.
Yes, we have. You see, I just watched the video about accommodation settlements in NEMA. Now, any genuine and rational being to think about NEMA must be thinking within the confines of a short-term, medium-term, and long-term plans. Because I see NEMA to be one of the most prime areas in this country.
Sure.
Come in the next 20, 30 years, even within the national long-term development plan of this country, which is 40 years.
Right.
I believe when you come that time, you will not realize NEMA.
Honorable Boniface of Workers Sadek's ministry implement what he has told us today?
Within the shortest possible time.
How? When exactly? The shortest possible
I
time.
will not put a date, but I've started working.
What have you done?
You saw me breaking grounds to get the construction of
AstroTurfs.
You go to Medina right now, they are constructing drains. You go to some parts of this country, they are constructing drains in the Zongo communities. I am not the type who wants to make everybody know what I'm doing, but it is when I'm commissioning that you know that I've done something.
Okay, so which areas have you tackled specifically?
So far, right now, I've been to Walwali.
So there's something going on in
There's
Walwali
something going
that
on
when
in
we
Walwali.
go, we will see.
You see it.
Drains
There's something going on
in
Medina. There's something going on in Chebi. There's something going on in Oda. There's something going on in Salaga. But you see, I have not brought all this thing. When you go, schools are being rehabilitated. Zongo communities.
I see. But there was one item I read, and I want to find out from you, whether you did say that skyscrapers were going to be built in NEMA.
I did mention it.
And who are the ones going to...
And this is a long-term plan. Okay, you conclude.
Who are the ones going to buy those skyscrapers?
Good. You see, what people fail to realize is that wealth can be brought to the poorest in the society. I'll give you an example. Now, it's going to be a triangular or a tripartite arrangement. First of all, people in NEMA, you cannot just go all of a sudden and say, look, I'm coming to pull down your houses and build skyscrapers for you. It should be a consensus between a potential investor, the landowner, and the government. And the arrangement, a proposal that I'm putting forward is that, one, if you get a serious investor, you are the landowner.
No,
Listen, let me conclude so that you understand it proper.
Right.
You see, this simple economics. One thing is that if I bring in a potential investor and you are a landowner, the best thing is that maybe your compound house is housing maybe 50 people. The potential investor, if you agree on terms, you buy the land on leasehold.
And these are what?
Listen,
the residents of
now
NEMA?
they pull down the house.
Those who are watching us now?
Yes.
Who are living in NEMA? Who cannot even pay 120 cedis rent?
Listen to me.
You're going to have them.
This is something that will make them. Exactly. And the point is that, listen, this is not stories.
The simplicity of the economics is what I'm finding difficult to understand.
You understand it right here.
How?
Good. I'll just give you simple. It's hypothetical. Listen. Now, I have the potential investor. You are the landowner. You want to lease it. I am the government, the sovereign guarantor. And I'm guaranteeing that this man is going to pull down your house, put up about 10, 12 story, give you the first floor or 2 floors.
For how much?
Listen.
Because the person who's going to build is a businessman.
Let me land. You want to jump the gun. Let me land and then you understand. Yes, and that is why, you see, when you are sipping tea, you don't drink it with the hot when it is warm. Okay? You sip it as it goes on until it becomes cold.
So when are we going to see
the
this?
hot water into your throat, you will burn your throat.
When are we going to see
So
this
you
happen?
keep calm and listen to me. If you have that, and you have the floor, 2 floors given to the landowner, that this is it. The landowner will tell you that, look, I don't want to stay here. I will lease it out. I will hire it and go to another place and stay. The lease agreement will be between 30 to 50 years. After 30 years, it becomes your own. This is what is happening in the advanced world. Please, you see,
because
it's so simple and very
unfortunately,
easy.
because of time, I'm
Yes.
going to have to engage you a bit
Exactly.
further on this particular one, so
And
that
if
we'll
you
get a
watch,
better understanding.
if you watch in
Because, quite
recent
frankly,
time, even
you see-
children in NEMA who are living abroad are adopting this kind of style, where most of the buildings you see in front before the streets. This is the same concept, but in a different way.
The hypothetical analysis of this will be subjected to,
Very
other
simple.
thoughts, but I'm grateful.
This is simple economics.
Honorable, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know you have time, so you will join us again.
Anytime. On this particular
Boniface,
issue, you bring me.
yes, clarity is important on
Yes.
this. Honorable Boniface Abubakar Sadiq is Minister in charge of Inner City and Zongo Development, joining us in studio for this discussion. But thank you, Honorable. The Director of the Center for European Studies, Professor Ransford Jampo, says the unwillingness of Parliament to pass the draft Political Parties Funding Bill 2008 is a leading cause of corruption amongst politicians. His comment is coming on the back of a survey conducted by the Center for Democratic Development, CDD, and a UK-based firm, which says Ghanaian MPs spent not less than 390,000 cedis on campaigns before getting elected.
The survey conducted by the Westminster Foundation for Democracy and the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD, show the cost of running for political office in Ghana went up by nearly 60% over one single electoral cycle, that is 2012 to 2016. Over 250 members of parliament as well as aspiring candidates were interviewed, with many sharing their experiences about their election expenditure. On the average, candidates spent approximately $86,000, equivalent to 390,000 cedis, to get elected. The survey looked at 4 key areas of election expenditure. These were campaigns, payment of party workers, media advertisement and donations. It also revealed a sitting MP earns 233,000 cedis or $51,000 annually, and therefore a successful campaign would cost an MP the equivalent of the first 2 years of his salary. Reacting to the latest survey, Director of the Center for European Studies, University of Ghana, Professor Jampo, said the development has far-reaching implications for Ghana.
The more people spend in running for office, okay, the more likely the chance that they would want to recoup the amount of money spent in their electioneering campaign when they are voted in office through all manner of corrupt means. So if you spend huge sums of money in getting elected and you get to power, you first of all do not think about representing the people, but you think about how to first of all recoup the amount of money spent, and then also try to get more for future elections.
He argued a passage of a draft Political Parties Funding Bill 2008 to put a cap on how much aspiring MPs can spend remains the solution.
Kufuor's time, he said, yes, we agree that there should be public funding of political parties, but let's think about modalities or how we have to share, distribute the resources. And he didn't do anything about it beyond that, and then he left office. At Amil's time, the bill was ready. It was sent to his office in 2010, and nothing was done about it until the party exited power after 2016 election. And then we still do not know even where the bill is now.
The CDD is set to launch the report sometime this week.
Now, the majority leader in Parliament, Osei Mensah Bonsu, has expressed fear Parliament in the next 4 to 5 years will be full of money bags and not people with competence. He says people are now greasing the palms of constituents just to enable them enter Parliament. The Swame MP is worried that the act has the potential of breeding corruption, which will be difficult to fight. He spoke with my colleague, Evelyn Tingma.
Now, if the member who spends that much comes to Parliament and his party doesn't win the election, you expect him to stay here? He'll be following outside to look for money.
And that affects Parliament's...
It affects the business of Parliament. It affects the quality of work that we do. If the member's party wins, what do you think? And he's made a minister, he's made a deputy minister, what do you think will happen? Certainly, when contracts are awarded, corners may be cut, and the nation will suffer. If we want to fight corruption, bribery and corruption in the system, we should look at this, because it's one of the factors that engender corruption. Except that whenever you raise it, people are jittery. Nobody wants to deal with it. But I would suggest strongly that it is one of the issues that is causing corruption in the system. Legitimate fears that in the next 3, 4, 5 elections, if we are not careful the way we are going, our Parliament is going to be taken over by money bags and people with fat wallets. Not people with, as I've said, the competence, the experience, the knowledge to really perform the functions of Parliament, but people who might have greased palms in the constituencies taking over. And they come and they are found wanting in the business of parliamentary duties. That's my worry. And going forward, I'll propose that by that, we'll succeed in weakening Parliament all the more as the weakest of the 3 arms of government, that is the legislature, the executive, and Parliament. And yet Parliament, when we talk about democracy, is the bulwark of democracy. Parliament is supposed to put these 2 other arms in check. And if that Parliament is weak, or if that Parliament is not really concerned with the business of Parliament, then where are we going as a nation? And that is my worry, is my legitimate fear. And I would want the political parties to confront this challenge, to see how effectively to deal with it. And I think it will serve this nation, it will serve the various political parties better if they did serious introspection to look at what obtains in the advanced democracies. In advanced democracies, the members of Parliament are peer-reviewed in Parliament by the leadership of the party. And they then make recommendations to the party that this person is a good member of Parliament, let's retain the person. And once the recommendation comes, it's a fait accompli. And that party at the constituency is not allowed to, contest, bring up people to come and contest. The party itself should own the process of elections. But here, the central party doesn't have any role to play, more or less. The regional party doesn't have any role to play, more or less. It's the constituency party that hijacks the conduct of the primaries in this regard. And then they then decide who should be every 4 years.
At primaries level, for instance, some constituencies will require a candidate to spend that much or even more. You realize that we have very large constituencies, medium-sized constituencies, and small constituencies. And the amount that has been mentioned, obviously, will fit the large to medium-sized constituencies. And again, also depending on the number of people who show interest to contest. What that means is that if, for instance, you're already a member of Parliament, you'll be forced to spend a lot more. I remember very well that the first time I contested in the Kata constituency for the primaries, I spent well over 500,000 Ghana cedis. And so, but it varies from constituency to constituency. My constituency will fall between the large, medium sized constituency. And so, for between 400, 500, really fits the mood or the bill. But if you go to even large constituencies like, let's say, Ashama, for instance, you are likely to spend more.
Also, government through the Ministry of Health has recruited more than 17,000 medical practitioners within 13 months. Out of this figure, 245 have received financial clearance since January this year and have been posted to outstations across the country. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Health has secured another financial clearance for 4,000 private medical practitioners to work in government health facilities, according to the ministry's public relations office.
Out of the 17,000 health officers recruited between January 2017 and 2018, 882 are medical officers, while 395 are health officers. 3,058 are general and mental health nurses, while 1,946 are midwives. Community health nurses with certificates and diploma, numbering 1,896, have also been recruited. 3,980 health assistants were also recruited, while 2,576 allied health professionals also secured jobs. Degree nursing holders were 1,312, while pharmacy technicians also comprised 97. 14 physician assistants, 89 food technicians, and 90 technical assistants also have jobs. 48 technical officers, 58 health promotion officers, and 7 lab technicians were also recruited. There were 35 dental surgery assistants and 36 technical officers for nutrition gained employment.
These are people who have been posted. 16,502.
Just 2017.
Just 2017. Because the government policy was that it didn't want people to continue sitting at home, but to clear all of them, because been able to recruit 17,009. These people some of them had sat home for the past 4 years or so.
The public relations officer of the Ministry of Health, Robert Kujo, said further clearance has been secured for 4,000 private health professionals.
He's going to discuss that with the cabinet minister. He will make the president aware, and going forward, we know exactly what to do.
Right.
So the possibility that these people will be engaged in the next few months, I believe is there.
He expressed concern about some junior doctors complaining about their recruitment after government had secured clearance for them.
We had already secured their clearance, and we were working towards. That is the number 190-something and the 68. That is the number. At the time they were on air, we had already secured the clearance.
We're back with some business news, still live here on News 360. Do stay.
Welcome back to News 360. Time now for some business news. Now, the Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement System, GIPS, has called for more businesses to employ the use of point-of-sale devices and accept mobile money payments for their goods and services. The CEO, Archie Hesse, who was speaking to TV3 Business, said employing electronic payment systems in businesses will reduce the amount of cash used in the system, thereby promoting government's cash-light society agenda.
Total transactions processed by GIPS increased from 20 million in 2016 to 25 million in 2017, representing a growth of 20% in volume. Similarly, there was an increase in value from 174 billion cedis in 2016 to 208 billion cedis in 2017, representing a growth of 19% in value. Transactions with the highest growth were express checks, which grew by 22.18%, and the Express Automated Clearinghouse Direct Credit, which grew by 72.34%. The GIPS Instant Pay processed a total transactions value of 83 million cedis. This, according to the CEO, Archie Hesse, needs more improvement as instant pay systems is the future of electronic pay system.
The world is evolving towards instant. Everything is instant. You can place your orders instantly. And therefore, we have provided an instant payment platform. Maybe the banks and the various corporates are going through their internal processes and procedures before we will start seeing traction in that area. But that's the future when it comes to payment systems.
He said plans are underway to launch a new electronic payment platform dubbed e-bills pay, which will operate using the instant pay technology.
Websites that corporates sell their products and services, they might have to connect our instant pay to it. KLM is one example that we are working with at the moment. We are working with them such that once you've ordered your ticket, it then defaults to the GIP instant pay, and you can debit your account and credit KLM's account. And we're going to extend this, what we call the billers, e-billers concept, to the cement, the breweries, and all these various wholesale payments. So we're going to use a GIP to revolutionize the wholesale chain payments area as well.
On to the performance of the cedi now. The cedi is expected to continue its trend in appreciation against the US dollar after making some modest gains last week. In an interview with an economist, Courage Mante of Databank, he said the cedi maintaining its current stability will hinge on increased dollar supply in the economy. He further said this will be aided by positive investor sentiment and central bank's support.
As at Monday, February 5th, the Ghana cedi has recorded a year-to-date gain of 1.10% at the Forex Bureau. This performance is in contrast to the same period last year when the cedi lost 1.26%. This performance is impressive because historically, the cedi does not fare well in the first quarter of the year, but picks up in the latter part. Economist Courage Mate said this performance can be attributed to steady improvement in our trade balance, which consistently throughout last year recorded a surplus of about $1 billion, equivalent to 2.5% of GDP.
If you look at the steady flow of foreign currency as it spreads out throughout the 12 months of this year, it appears, apart from the fundamental flows from our export revenues, government's proposed issuance of a euro bond in the second quarter of this year and the anticipated cocoa syndicated loans in the latter part of this year appears to have eased investor concerns about a possible shortfalls in supply, and that may have been doing the trick for the cedi on the markets.
An economist with First Bank Financial Services, Ben Amwa Ajay, said the expected robust performance of the cedi in the year is not from a position of a strengthened cedi, but rather from a dollar weakness.
It's more a case of dollar weakness than cedi strength. But in any case, it's still good news because we know that cedi depreciation is one of the largest drivers of inflation. The truth is that a more nuanced perspective of this, you should take cognizance of other African countries as well. And you'd realize that almost everybody else is actually maintaining their hold against the dollar or actually performing better against the dollar. And so that goes to show that it is less of a case of cedi strength, but more of a case of dollar weakness.
Let's move to some other stories now. GCB Bank has shut down 31 branches of the defunct UT and Capital banks after it successfully completed the full integration of the systems of the two collapsed banks to offer customers a wide network of some 183 branches in the country. We're going to be bringing you more on that story in our subsequent bulletins. But that's it for the business news on News 360 this evening. There's more business news, and you can get more on this story on our website. That's 3news.com. Welcome back to News 360. Let's take a look at what's making news on the international front.
Jacob Zuma's future South Africa's president is under threat as senior politicians hold an emergency meeting in Johannesburg. 20 of the African National Congress's leaders are discussing Mr. Zuma's tenure a day after he reportedly refused to step down. Pressure is now going on Mr. Zuma, who is facing corruption allegations, to go ahead on this week's State of the Nation address. His term is due to expire in 2019. Two private Kenyan TV stations are now back on air after being shut down for 7 days. Government switches NTV and KTN News back on after 7 days. Privately owned NTV said on its live feed on YouTube, but the stations are only available on pay TV platforms. Two other stations, Citizen TV and Kikuyu language station Inoro TV, remain off air. The sole surviving suspect from the 2015 Paris terror attacks is refusing to speak any further in a Belgian court where he is on trial over the gunfight that led to his arrest. Salah Abdesalam said he will not respond to questions from the judge. Abdesalam, 28, claimed that Muslims were judged and treated in the worst of ways mercilessly and said he was placing his trust.
Tonight, the 9th edition of TV3's Kids reality show, Talented Kids, will be launched soon. Now, 24 versatile and amazing talents have been shortlisted to kickstart the 2018 journey.
Countdown for the start of the 9th edition of Talented Kids says on. 24 talents have been shortlisted after an intensive audition process. To the producers of the show, the list reflects the finest and top-notch talents capable of pulling off a stunning show. In keeping with balance, an array of talent including comedians, instrumentalists, singers, acrobats and other unique talents have been selected to entertain you.
Like the name, Talented Kids, every time we have great talents coming through. This year, we have some surprises. Key talent, great talents coming through for us. I mean, the likes of a very young kid who is displaying hairdressing skills. We have DJs on there as well. Obviously, we have the singers, the rappers, the dancers, you know, topping it out for us. But there's always that unique talent that you should always look out for when it comes to Talented Kids.
And though the exploits of kid DJ Switch also proved inspirational to many hopefuls, two DJ prodigies made the shortlist.
DJ Switch has enjoyed her reign. I mean, the youngest DJ in Ghana, and she's been nominated. She's playing shows. Next person to succeed DJ Switch is what we are looking out for this year, Talented Kids Season 9.
The countdown.
Yeah, it's a good
succeed
time.
DJ Switch.
Absolutely.
That would be quite a feat for that person.
True. Free to play, they say. So make it with us here on TV3 as we roll out the various auditions on Talented Kids. But thank you very much for spending your 60 minutes with us here on News 360. On behalf of the rest of the team, we're grateful. My name is Alfred Akansi.
And I'm Natalie Fort. We've got more news on our website, 3news.com. And as always, News at 10 will simulcast on our sister station. That's 3FM 92.7. And coming up next is Sadia. Thanks so much for watching.